Hi, and welcome back to 5 questions over coffee. Here is my coffee now. Be careful not to spill that. It's quite full at the moment. Mitchell, yeah, well done. It's a Guinness, so well done. Mitchell Levy here is a leading executive coach, a global credibility expert, and I'm looking forward to him walking through his process today, talking to us a little bit about how he helps get leaders real credibility. So, Mitchell, thank you for making a few minutes available to come and speak to us here on It's Not Rocket Science, 5 questions over coffee.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Stuart. Really nice to engage with you.
Well, that's terrific. So let's start by trying to understand the sort of person you're reaching out to with helping them with their credibility.
You know, it's interesting. I have two distinct audiences. So, as an executive coach, so I'm part of the Marshall Goldsmith 100 coaches, some of the top executive coaches on the planet, and for that audience, it is fast-growing CEOs leading the future with executive abundance. Now, if you were in the US, I say Inc. 5000, which basically is the top 5,000 fastest growing companies in the US. But yeah, since this is Australian, I'll just say fast growing companies. So that is one group of one audience, and executive abundance is a new framework I'm introducing into the marketplace. It's been my executive coaching for years, but one of the things you asked me in the green room, how you doing? Last week, I advanced to candidacy on my PhD program, and so I am actually doing a dissertation, and then we'll write a book, do coursework, and chatbots on executive abundance.
Congratulations on your doctorate. Not an easy thing to do, as I recall. So tell me a little more about sort of the people that you're helping, that you've just sort of described. Give us an example of the sort of things they might have tried before, and the ways in which you help them.
Well, so by the way, let me do the second audience, and then you can tell me which one you want me to answer that question to. No problem. So the second audience is business owners escaping slimy LinkedIn sales tactics. And so perfect. That's exactly what I want to get, right? It's, I've been on LinkedIn since before they were making money. Now, a couple 100,000 people could say that, but there's one thing I could say that nobody else on the planet can say, and that is I was in the room with two of the 5 founders, and I was commissioned to have written and published the first book on LinkedIn. I've looked at a couple 100,000 LinkedIn profiles, and I have a system and approach that helps people drive one-to-one business relationships with people on LinkedIn, and I can do it at scale. And so it's the 5% on LinkedIn functionality that brings 80% of value. So that sort of answers that question for the business owner side. On the executive coaching side, the question is, what sort of things, what have they tried before? You know, I think I'm going to generically say something, and then you could drill me in if we need to. Life is, and business is really, really simple. It's not easy, right? And what's not easy about it is the fact that even if you know the answer in your heart, in your head, in your body, you know exactly what to do, there's chaos out there, and there's these experts who have what I call marketing cookie cutter approaches. And so in your vernacular, there's a wicked problem they have, and they're trying to solve it. They're going to go out and talk to a ton of people, and they get such a diverse range of answers, and then they hit one they like, but they don't hold on to it. And so for those that I work with on executive coaching, the first thing we need to do is establish the clarity, establish the playground they play in, establish what I call their CPOP, their customer point of possibilities. And that is in less than 10 words where they're executing on their purpose. That's for the company or for the individual. And once you have that, then you can deploy an operating system of credibility. But until you have that, it's really hard to make decisions, because you need a compass. You need a personal compass that you can actually live by. You need your own North Star. And so that's, in terms of business, we need a North Star. And that's where we start. And after that, when I hang out with somebody who's doing executive coaching, I'm just helping them understand how they're making decisions in their North Star, how they propagate it throughout the organization. It's always fun to see it, and everyone's different. Some are really fast. Some take a little bit more time. Some need to fall down a couple of times so they can get up. But generally speaking, what I do is extremely simple, but apparently it's not so easy.
So let me just try and sort of link those two customer types together in some way. I think something like LinkedIn requires somebody to have what you've just described in terms of the North Star of what they're doing, and be very clear about what their problem solution is. I see an awful lot of people on LinkedIn just sort of, reaching out quite randomly to people, sending the immediate, why don't we just cut to the chase, buy my stuff, buy my thing. And I find myself very frustrated by the fact they don't actually have, as you've just described it, a real purpose, a real point of differentiation, a real customer focus behind that message, because they're not able to actually articulate what it is they're actually going to do. So there's a great deal of sort of overlap between those two things that you've described, because business owners, even if they're small, need to have that North Star about what it is they're reaching out to do with LinkedIn and why they need to do it. Am I wrong?
No. It's great observation. Thank you for seeing it. It shows a little bit about who you are. It turns out that if I'm working with a CEO with a couple hundred, couple thousand, tens of thousands employees, there's a lot more, we'll just say, politics and vested interest and vested groups in place. When I'm working with a CEO who's a solopreneur, or they've got 5 or 10 people in their organization, it's a whole lot easier to make change. And so it's a different price point, a lot less expensive for the LinkedIn work. And it turns out that the lessons I learned in both places apply to each other. Yeah. I call the LinkedIn guys mini executive abundance, even though I don't necessarily call it to them. In my mind, I'm deploying executive abundance at the individual level as well, which is a great way to. So it's technically the same thing, but most of the time I don't say it that way.
Yeah, and thank you for sort of endorsing the fact that I hadn't misunderstood it, because I do think that this idea of executive abundance applies to some smaller businesses. They just don't know it applies. They just don't recognize it in themselves. And I think a lot of business owners probably don't grow because they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to start to let themselves have that abundance. So talk to me a little bit, Mitchell, about, well, I know you've got a valuable offer that you're going to put, and we're going to have this in our vault, which I'm going to show now on screen, which is www.systemize, systemimise.me/free-stuff. So you'll be able to get hold of some of the stuff that Mitchell is going to talk about there. So Mitchell, talk to me a little bit about the process that you go through. So if people were thinking, I need to get and understand this guy a bit more, talk about the process, talk about how you help them with this abundance as you're talking about.
So let's we'll practice on you, Stuart. You've demonstrated that I should do that. What I ended up doing, and I'll share, this is actually what I do second, but I'm sharing on screen. Oh, not working at the moment. Looks like I have a small problem with my screen sharing, so I'll not do that. I ended up interviewing 500 thought leaders on credibility. And with those 500, I was able to articulate the definition of credibility, which turns out to be a good operating system we live by. Credibility is the quality which we are trusted, known, and liked. And it turned out that I unlocked a superpower. My superpower is deploying the framework of clarity. So I sit with any company, any human, help them articulate in less than 10 words where they're executing on their purpose. Now, I call that a CPOP, your customer point of possibilities. That's that North Star. That's the compass we're talking about. And Stuart, let's create that for you. I looked at your LinkedIn, looked at your website. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong. What I will promise you is that after you hear your CPOP, you're going to go, oh, I have to make changes, because it's just going to help focus you, right? Now, let me say something, and I'm going to guess right away. I'm going to guess that you're in the 10%. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. When I share a CPOP with somebody, we as humans, we vibrate at a frequency. And so what happens is the CPOP represents in words the frequency you vibrate at. It's who you are. It makes you feel aligned with who you are. I've done this over 1,200 times, and in 1,200 cases, the person's feeling aligned. Now, here's the scary part. In 90% of the cases, they will get unaligned between 2 hours and 2 weeks because of the chaos and noise out there. I'm going to assume that you're going to be in the 10%. So we'll see next time we talk, right? Now, I also will tell you something else. I will give you the formula. It's a secret formula, and I will gift that to you. And we'll go through the exercise together. When I was doing the interviews, I created a video, and I would share the formula and say, listen, what I found so far, I created the video somewhere around interview 50. And what I found so far is even when somebody had the formula, only 2% would actually articulate their CPOP, because even with the formula, it's hard because we get stuck on this marketing cookie cutter stuff. Even after they got the video, there was still only 2% of people could walk in. So I'm going to give you and the audience the formula, and we'll walk through it together. The CPOP is less than 10 words, and it's really two components. The first is the who, and I'm going to go in and ask you the questions. Who do you serve? If we're credible, we're servant leaders. So who do you serve? And the second piece is, from their perspective, what is their pain point or what is their pleasure point? Right? So let me ask you these questions. So who is it that you serve?
So I serve a business leader who has a really bright idea, but doesn't know how to get that and make it into a positive business reality.
Now, it's funny because your LinkedIn says founders.
That's true. It is true.
So when you think about where 80% of your revenue comes from, is it from corporate businesses and business leaders, or is it from founders, or who is it?
It's 80% comes from founders.
Okay. So good thing I've looked at your LinkedIn. All right. So I think you said it, but I'm going to ask you both pain and pleasure. What's their primary pain point?
They have no ability or starting point to make that business strategy or business idea an actual reality in the marketplace. They are unable to articulate, possibly even to themselves, where they start to go from this would be brilliant to it is there and it's making me money.
So you're talking about really founders, pre-revenue founders.
Now, a lot of the people that I deal with they've already got a product, but they've got one product. They need two because they want to scale. And the problem they have is I've got a great idea for my second product, but the way I did it first, but now I've got a small team, it doesn't work the second time.
Interesting. Okay. So they have money because they've been able to get something in the marketplace, but now they want to either scale what they're doing or scale into another product.
Essentially, yes.
Oh, tell me how did I get it wrong? Tell me what you got.
No, you're absolutely right. By saying essentially yes, the only other thing that I would add into that is there are sometimes businesses who have managed to get that second product, but it's now tanking because they have got all the wrong. They're trying to do it the way they did it before, and therefore, the mechanisms they're using are wrong for where they are because they're now a bigger company. You were talking about sort of politics. They're now sort of saying it's got to be done by other people, but it's got to be done my way, in the way that I started this, and that just doesn't work if they start instructing in that way.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
while we're doing this, Mitchell, I know you're just doing a bit of typing, such like, I'd invite anybody, if anybody's hearing this and thinking to themselves, I need to make comments, or I need to actually sort of, leap in at this point, Mitchell and I will be monitoring the comments on LinkedIn after this. So if you've got questions, or if you're looking at this and thinking, I want somebody to talk to me about this, post your questions there. I can guarantee Mitchell will get onto that and we'll answer your questions, because he's that sort of guy.
Thank you, Will. Interesting. Okay, give me a pleasure point. Not a pleasure point of working with you, but we'll just fast forward to a period of time after they've had a chance to spend time with you. How are they feeling? What are they doing? What makes sense to them?
Let me give you a very real example of that. I'm working with a company. The founders needed to start to scale something. We turned their service that was poorly defined, couldn't be delivered because they couldn't really articulate it. It's now much more of a sort of defined product idea, although it's still a service, but it's got a logo, it's got a description, it's got a series of processes which their staff can operate, and they're selling that multiple times per week. And they're now proud of it. They're now saying, I'll use the name of it. They're now saying ThreatSure is a great product. It was a great idea, and now it's something which is actually making us money, and customers love it.
Cool. Nice. Okay. Thank you. So yours is easy.
Well, I don't want it to be easy, Mitchell.
Let me rephrase that. Yours was really simple. And it was only after I started talking to you to see who I was seeing this morning that because remember, we talked in the green room, should we do this live? And sometimes there's a lot of marketing cookie cutter stuff that gets in the way, but everything you said reinforced, wait, let me count the words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 words. Would you be happy if you could describe yourself?
Wow.
Okay.
Now, I will say, now, this is where people, if you are watching this live and if you're going to go onto LinkedIn, you need 6 words. I have never been able to articulate this in 6 words. I can articulate it in 2 or 3 hours if you ask me to, but 6 words, that's impressive.
So let me say that we'll just say less than 10, right? Because if you think about it, and this is for people paying attention. When you asked me my 2 audiences, I gave you my 2 CPOPs. CPOP stands for Customer Pointed Possibilities. So my executive coaching is 9 words. Inc. 5,000 CEOs leading the future with executive abundance. The goal when you share your CPOP is that the referral partner or the prospect says, oh, tell me more. Mitchell, what's this executive abundance thing, right? Or the other one, when I'm talking to a business owner, by the way, Stuart, you're a business owner, right? So when I talk to your founders are business owners. When I talk to business owners, it's business owners escaping slimy LinkedIn sales tactics. And I either get the laugh that you gave before or the visual reaction because you just remember being slimed recently.
Yeah.
In either case, the goal when I share those words is to paint a compass, to paint a playground that I play in. And then when I answer what comes next, I get more credibility because I've been so finite in terms of the playground. So in your particular case, your playground is 6 words. And I'm putting it in chat because I'm a visual person, so you could see it as well, but I'll share it out loud. Founders needing a path to scale.
Brilliant.
Right. And so,
Mitchell,
by the way,
and once again, anybody who is watching this, that is such a brilliant summary. I couldn't have done that without Mitchell's help, but that is a fabulous summary.
I'm going to say thank you. And by the way, it's you because By the way, although what happened, your marketing cookie cutter stuff, which I'm glad I looked at your LinkedIn, you said the word founders, and that seemed important to me. So I had to ask you, where does 80% of revenue come from?
Yeah.
Right. But other than that, everything you said reinforced, and you already have this on your LinkedIn. You have a couple other things which I might encourage you to remove, but everything you said reinforced having a path to scale. Even the pleasure point was talking about a path to scale. Right. And so when you now have these 6 words, and by the way, what I was typing in on the back end is I have a Mitchell Levy chat bot. And I said, if this is your CPOP, what could the acronym PATH stand for? And I'm putting it in chat. We don't have to talk about it, but this is just my gift for you. PATH could stand for, basically purpose, action, team, and harmony. Sorry, it didn't cut and paste really well.
No, Mitchell, that's
purpose, action, team, and harmony, and then it talks about what stuff is. But I think the way to think about it for you is when you share with somebody. Let me do your tell me more if you don't mind. I'll do it because we're recorded, right? So, and now a superpower I have is the ability to do this. It's a formula, and I've just done it over 1,200 times, so it's easy. I'm happy for people to grab it. It's the who and the what. Who and the what comes before why, right? Just to be clear, it comes before Simon Sinek's why. Who and the what comes first. It's a CPOP. And a ancillary superpower is if I know somebody's CPOP, most of the time I could do their tell me more better than them until they feel good about it. So let me tell you, Stuart, what I mean by this. When in the future, when you share your CPOP, now, if somebody says to you, hey, what's your CPOP? Now, maybe a couple 100,000 people know this word. So most likely they're going to say, who are you? Right? What do you do? Who are you? And in that particular case, you need to put a hook up front. The hook is, hey, there's an audience I spend a lot of time with. Or there's an audience I do really well with, or my clients all get success in a certain area, right? Whatever the hook is, then you do a pause, and then you say, founders needing a path to scale. Then you drop the mic, and then you may say something, oh, let me tell you a little bit more. Listen, I work with a series of founders. A lot of times, they've already put their first product out there. They've already been successful, and they need to scale. They need to get to the next level, and they get stuck. They either don't know how to move forward, or they've already moved forward, but they've deployed what worked in the first product to the second, and it doesn't work. What I do is help them lay out the path that will allow them to scale going forward.
Mitchell, that is the best way I have ever heard somebody describe what is effectively an elevator pitch. You'll have heard elevator pitch, and they're all very difficult for people to do, and most of the time they're not very good. So I'm not going to say that because there are a lot of people on here who will be offended by that. But that.
Oh, Stuart, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say to you and everyone else, if you've memorized an elevator pitch, please forget it.
Stop
now.
It
out, right?
Stop now.
It comes from here. Your elevator pitch comes from your head. Your goal when you talk to somebody is you want them to feel the energy inside. You want them to feel your heart. So memorize the 6 words or 9 words or 3. A couple of people have 3 words, right? So memorize your CPOP, but you won't have to memorize it. It's your vibrational energy.
Yeah, brilliant.
And then your what would have been your elevator pitch is more the tell me more, which you custom tailor to the person you're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're saying. Look, Mitchell, I could keep you here for another couple of hours, but I have a feeling you have important business to go and speak to other people who need this. Once again, I'm going to invite anybody listening in live or in future when you see this, drop comments into the comments below. Mitchell, I know, will come back and give you some very, very good advice to try and get this sort of thing into your life, because we need more clarity. as Mitchell has probably managed to sort of convince me, I spend a lot of my time with people who haven't got the clarity they need. And it is always difficult to get that clarity because in their own heads, they're trying to rationalize, they're trying to sort of apply a set of rules. They've done all the courses, they've read all the books, they've been out and seen all the YouTube videos, and somehow that's actually created less clarity than if they just sat down and did a very simple exercise like Mitchell is doing here. So drop your questions, drop your comments. I know we can get some clarity back in the world. But Mitchell, how did you get to this? Where did you come from that this became your mission in life?
It's really interesting. I think what happened, because of time, I'll try to do this super quick. My undergraduate was a Bachelor of Science in Stochastic and Deterministic Models of Operational Research. In essence, I was taught how to model. Yeah, well, as long as I could say the words and the syllables come out of my mouth, I'm still happy. And one day I won't be able to do that anymore, right? So, but I was taught how to model people and systems and improve them. And what I learned, then I got an MBA, and as I mentioned previously, I'm doing the PhD thing, right? So what I learned was, although I only speak English, and it's American English, and so it's bad English, I don't speak those multiple languages. I do speak multiple languages of functions, so marketing, it's funny, marketing, talking to sales, talking to engineers. I mean, it's just whoever you are, I could speak your language because I'm feeling the energy of what does it mean to be who you are. And then it was in 2019 that I went on a Napoleon Hill journey and I interviewed 500 thought leaders on credibility between 2019 and 2020. And so it turns out I asked everyone 5 questions. And the first question that just sort of magically appeared to me is, what's your CPOP? That's the first thing I wanted to learn from people. And it took me a couple years post the interviews, post the TED Talk, post the book that I wrote on it. By the way, I've written 65 books. My 66 is the most important. It's the one I'm writing now called Executive Abundance. It took a number of years afterwards to really understand. As a matter of fact, what happened is I went to the Purpose Summit. Now, when you go to a summit called the Purpose Summit, you got a lot of people talking about purpose, bringing purpose into corporations, what people's purpose are. And, everyone had a different definition and it meant many different things to different people. And at some point in time, I thought the CPOP had to do with purpose. But as it turns out, the CPOP is where one is executing on their purpose today.
Yeah, brilliant.
Right. And I'm like, oh my God. And then once that started happening, and then I'll give you one last thing. It was about 8 months ago. So by the way, if you haven't figured this out, being credible means you're always learning. You're always growing. You're always coachable, right? About 7, 8 months ago, I realized something, and this put everything into perspective. I've known this my entire life. I've been in Silicon Valley, started 20 companies, and sat on the board of a public firm. And I've known this my entire life, but have not ever executed on it until about 7 or 8 months ago. Sell them what they want, deliver what they need.
Yeah, brilliant.
So Stuart, I'll just finish that. So what's interesting is I ended up spending 5.5 years of my life focused on what people need. Clarity and credibility are what people need. It's not what they want. So you sell them something else, but behind the scenes. So I'll make an offer for you. And listen, there are many people who actually sell clarity and they could still use the CPOP and what they work. So I do once a month, I do a clarity session. Have your clients come with your client to one of my clarity sessions, have them get their CPOP and then do your thing and do your magic. Right. And it's the partnership thing that we've been taught not to spend time on and not to focus on. But, if you can bring your client to get a CPOP and then all of a sudden everything you do from then on in is so much easier. Just an offer, if that's interesting to you.
Brilliant. Mitchell, I am very aware that there must be a question that you are waiting for, that you are begging me to ask, but I haven't yet asked. And I am obviously unable to articulate that question because I don't know what it is. So what's the question you think I should have by now asked? And then clearly you're going to have to answer it because I haven't yet thought about it.
That's always my favorite. That's my favorite question.
It's the one. It's one I like best as well because I don't have to do any work for that one.
Yeah, I didn't really, given I'm looking at the time, I didn't really have anything. I guess probably the biggest question is, it's along the lines of, Mitchell, what you did with Stuart was so simple and so and so straightforward and so quick. Why is it that Stuart didn't already know that? Or why, if you say you've done this 1,200 times and every time they've had the same reaction with Stuart, how come you're not known universally around the world? That would probably be
the answer. And the answer?
I'm still grokking. I'm still trying to grok all that, right? Still trying to figure that out. A lot of the answers, there are many people who focus on clarity and focus on credibility. And I think ultimately it's the best way I could think about it now. It really is what people need, but not exactly what they want. What I found is that 90% of people, or let's even go down to the CPOP level, 98% of people don't know their CPOP. And if you ask them if they have clarity, they're either going to say yes, or they're going to say, I don't care, I don't need it. But 98% of people, 98% of the audience has figured out that understanding where they're executing their purpose in less than 10 words is not important to them yet. And so it's hard to imagine that you could sit with somebody and they could look at you and they could actually present a summarized version of how you're showing up in the world so quickly. And there are people who watch this who think it's staged, that we did it ahead of time, right? And it's not. So, but the answer, I don't know exactly. I just know that when I talk to somebody, whether it's a CEO of a large company, if you're my client, I'm going to stick with you and you're going to play in your playground, right? But if you're somebody who I'm just sort of giving a gift to, or you've paid me to be in my clarity session, it's so easy to get off track. It's so easy to get out of alignment that people often do. And they go, yeah, it was good talking to Mitchell for a period of time, but I didn't do anything with it. Right. And what I'll say to you is, last week was also it was a great gift. It's when I advanced to candidacy for the PhD. I also had a woman join me. And apparently I had talked to her 3 years earlier. And the first words out of her mouth was, Mitchell, I've been thinking about you for the last 3 years, which is one of those things that are really, how do I interpret that? And she goes, I was about ready to enter an extremely difficult chapter of my life. And what you gave me, that CPOP, was the best gift I've ever received in my life, because it allowed me to actually pull myself out of that chapter, to focus on my business. And I've served 259 clients over a 5-year period. Most of those came after year 2, because that's when you and I spoke. And I am just so honored to have spent time with you. That's an example of somebody who heard it, understood it, and used it. And I challenge anyone. If you get your CPOP, and I'm someone who supports you, or you could take the formula in the 2% and you can make it work for you. I'm going to encourage you to live it and see what happens. I guarantee that your life will be different.
Mitchell, that is a brilliant story to end on. I've got nothing very much else to say. I'm going to ask people if they would just go to this link, www.systemize.me, subscribe. You need to go to that link, because that link is a link to a form which will allow me to send you an email, and you will then get an email once a week when we have brilliant guests like Mitchell on, and you can just sit and learn from people like Mitchell, because they are worth listening to. Mitchell, you have been an inspiration. I have got some words to add to my LinkedIn profile, but better than that, I've got some living to do now, because I have now got a challenge from you to live up to something that you have set down as a standard for me. I cannot believe what you do, and you should be world famous, and I'm going to try and make it so. Mitchell, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Stuart, my pleasure. I look forward to whatever our next conversation, and seeing who you are the next time I have a conversation with you.
Terrific. Thank you, Mitchell.